stop what you're doing because EA Sports just confirmed that they're officially bringing back college basketball, and I have a ton of information on the game's early development. Even more interesting though, there were 5 different companies that were interested in making a college basketball game. Could 2K be one of them? More on that in a few. Did you know that over 65% of you who watch these videos aren't actually subscribed? If you enjoy my content, I'd love for you to help me reach 300,000 subs on YouTube before the end of 2025. We're getting closer every day. But we haven't had a college basketball game since 2009 when EA launched March Madness 10 with Blake Griffin on the cover, and then the last time 2K had a version was in 2007 with College Hoops 2K8. That was Greg Oden on the cover. It's been forever. And EA shocked all of us this morning when they dropped a tweet announcing, "Bring the madness. Let's run it back." With an EA Sports basketball, and ever since college football returned, especially to critical acclaim, I've seen a lot of people ask for college basketball game to come back. And honestly, I thought it was likely, but I was skeptical at the same time because there are way more teams in college basketball. We're talking 300 plus teams in comparison to a little over 130 in college football. But that 300 number is about to grow exponentially when I tell you something here in a few. And while a lot of us love college basketball games growing up, they just historically haven't really sold well, especially for EA Sports. EA famously only sold 155,000 copies of NCAA Basketball 10. And when you compare that to College Football 25, which sold over 5 million copies, with 2.2 million of those copies being the deluxe version of the games that could get early access, it's quite a big gap. And to be fair, the college basketball game didn't really just have issues with selling, it was also the Ed O'Bannon case, which obviously made the name, image, and likeness scenario stop all college sports, but still, that game not selling well has to be said. The biggest question is, will 2K also get in the game for college basketball title? I think the odds are pretty high because letting EA kind of carve it in their basketball market would hurt the sales of NBA 2K. And for what feels like forever, NBA 2K has been the unquestioned best basketball game on the market, even back when NBA Live was still available. But I will say, NBA Live made a lot of strides to kind of close that gap before they ultimately called it quits. And I'll be honest, I'm still waiting for EA to announce that the development from NBA Live 20 was still continuing this whole time and they have a new basketball game ready. But that little Instagram post still haunts me to this day. But my initial guess was that 2K would be looking to make an announcement closer to the actual March Madness tournament. Something in a leak memo kind of made me realize that they may not actually be committed to making an actual college basketball game, and their plans could be a lot different than we expected. What gives us reason to believe 2K really isn't interested in making a separate college game is that the College Licensing Company, or the CLC, put out an RFP, which is also known as a request for proposal, back in November of last year. Their memo, which is mentioned by and broken down by Matt Brown, mentions that 5 total companies expressed formal interest, and 3 of them actually filed formal bids. I think it's fair to speculate that of those companies, we're probably looking at EA, which we know for sure it did, 2K, which would make the most sense, and then a mystery third company kind of filled out those 3 formal bids. The third mystery company, I'm not sure. I don't think it would have been an Ubisoft. Maybe a Sony San Diego could have been interested in a college basketball game, but that feels a little bit far. I feel like it could have been something like maybe a Tencent or an Asian-based company that maybe wanted to dive into this market. Or maybe there was an indie company, but still, we don't know the information on that just yet. But the CLC's most recent memo from late last week stated that EA Sports was the only company that submitted a bid that agreed to make a standalone game featuring every men's and women's team in Division I basketball. Other bids were proposing that they would include college content in the game, which we could probably assume is 2K here, and another mentioned producing an action game instead of a full-fledged simulation title, which just feels incredibly weird to me. I guess in theory, this could still mean that 2K offered to create a men's college basketball game and didn't have plans to include the women's game, but at this point, we kind of have to read between the lines a little bit. EA's proposal mentioned that they intend to use real athletes similar to what they do in College Football 25, and that they'd pay them a licensing fee that would be facilitated by Compass and One Team partners. You can think of this as kind of a similar process to what they're doing for the College Football 25 and 26 athletes, where they're paid a certain amount of money for a stipend, they get a free copy of the game, and they're sort of filling all that information out through the NIL portal. The real juicy part here is that EA Sports even alluded to the modes that would potentially be in their game. And speaking of games, have you made the jump to playing daily fantasy sports? Whether it's college basketball, the NFL, NBA, or whatever your favorite sport, you can use code GGB on Underdog to get a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. All you have to do is pick higher or lower on some of your favorite players in a sport you actually enjoy, and the free pick you get from using code GGB makes it a whole lot easier to win. If you get your picks right, you'll take home some cash cash based on how easy or difficult your selections were. And if you use code GGB on the link below in the description, I'll choose a few of you to do a best ball fantasy football league on Underdog later this summer. But going back to the modes that EA hinted at were similar to what they're offering in college football, which I think is good news for sports fans. They mentioned Dynasty, Ultimate Team, Road to Glory, and even Team Builder, which has me incredibly excited. There's an additional mention of leveraging the success of college football with college basketball to let fans enjoy both experiences, which I kind of took to assume this is a bundle. You could think that of being similar to the MVP bundle that gets you both Madden and college football at a bit of a discount. The memo does go on to mention the following. EA Sports will include downloadable live service content, which has become a significant factor in the player experience in EA Sports games. By offering additional post-launch content and experiences through live services, EA Sports is able to extend and enhance the total game experience and offer ways to add further value for game players. Paid downloadable content is always optional to players. It creates additional revenue streams that will be shared with participating institutions as incremental revenue royalty opportunities in the sale of games. That to me feels a bit standard, but one of the most interesting things is that EA Sports hints that this would actually not necessarily be a yearly title. There's been a lot of conversation around the industry that sports games maybe shouldn't be an annual title, and they could benefit from longer dev cycles in between them, and it feels like EA is actually exploring that here by what they're saying. Here's the breakdown of what EA Sports proposed. EA Sports is proposing a 6-year term with a commitment to release a minimum of 3 new games over that term, with the first game targeted to release in that 2028-2029 window. They may elect to release up to 6 new games, but that decision is at their option. In years where they do not release a new game, EA Sports will update teams and rosters and athletes via a downloadable patch and be subject to a 50% of their release year minimum royalty guarantee. What this really means is that EA is targeting obviously a 2028-2029 release date, but they mentioned in the legal structure of the deal that they'd only commit to 3 games across 6 years with the potential to release one every year, 6 if they so choose. We could potentially be looking at a scenario where EA Sports releases a college basketball game in 2028, provides roster updates jerseys, adds small features and improvements to the game going in through 2029, and then they have another big release of the game in 2030. And when you consider the history of college basketball games not selling particularly well, this feels like the smartest path that EA could really approach. At the same time though, if the game bangs at launch and they see that numbers and critical reception are through the roof, they could commit to releasing a game every single year. Factor in that there's former NBA 2K basketball talent from some of the best NBA 2Ks like Scott O'Gallagher, who works now on college football and Madden, and Rob Jones, who currently works on college football. This feels like something big could be brewing. There's no sense if either of these guys would be on their college game. We don't have any confirmation there, but you have to imagine those conversations are likely being had. And who knows, if this model works for college basketball, then we potentially could see this impact their other sports games. I've heard rumors in the past that EA had explored this for NBA Live and then for their NHL series, but this would be the first real foray into doing this for a major sports game, really for any major company. There's also a few weird wrinkles in the leaked info, but one stranger one that most people don't really know is that the NCAA has a lot of legal protections over the phrase March Madness and the actual NCAA tournament. EA is reportedly looking at obtaining licenses from the schools, players, conferences, trophies, and even the NCAA here, which would be different than what they do for college football. And the title that they're looking to use, which is subject to change, obviously a working title, is EA Sports College Basketball. And in similar fashion to what they do for royalties in college football, they'd follow the same path here. Conferences and schools would be paid on an engagement metric. So the more that a team or conference or player from those teams or conferences use, the better the payout for that respective group. Having a true career mode in a college basketball game has me incredibly excited, because when I saw the mention of Road to Glory or a Road to Glory style mode, you can imagine that being a Road to March Madness. That just gets the juices flowing. I think a lot of us maybe had criticisms of EA Sports in the past when they were just Madden, but when you look at the work that the college football team has done and the work that has been done particularly in Dynasty and Road to Glory mode, I think it makes a lot of us excited about what a college basketball experience could be. And also mention that EA servers have been incredibly stable over the years for their sports games, which means a reliable experience out there. But I do have to wonder, will 2K come back with a proposal of their own, maybe saying, okay, we see that EA is out here committing to Division 1 for, men's and women's basketball. Maybe we will try to do that as well to get the CLC on board. Or will 2K just say, nah, we're good with NBA 2K and we'll keep doing what we have? That is one of the biggest dominoes in this entire thing, because if we get 2 college basketball games competing, that changes a lot of things versus just one company doing it. But wait a second, 2K just dropped a bomb on the timeline with a brand new tweet that shakes up literally everything. It's entirely possible this could just be a rogue social media manager driving up engagements, But I'd be hard to find it to believe that 2K will let a tweet like this go out without some strategic element to it. The tweet says, "The campus has been quiet for too long," and it's in response to someone reaching out to 2K and saying 2K should be making the college basketball game. Actually, this person didn't even reach out to 2K. This was just floating on the timeline, and they happened to go grab it. This was very strategic to me, but I don't feel like it's a confirmation, he said. I really wouldn't consider this a confirmation that college hoops is coming back yet, but it definitely makes the entire convo way more interesting now. I mean, would 2K match EA by adding the men and women's teams to the game? Would they only add to the men's side of college basketball? Would it just be an NBA 2K? Would they just make their own separate? We have all these questions that I'm going to be working to answer for you guys soon. But what do you want the most out of a college basketball game? With EA back in the game, do you want to see 2K take a stab at it too? Make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with all the information on the return of college basketball games. It's a great time to be a sports gamer. Be safe, be smart, tell somebody you love them. Catch you guys on the next one.